Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well out there. We are now, as of 3:30 Pacific time, US and Canada, 3 hours post the exact moment of the solar eclipse in Libra. And I have decided that one of the things I want to do this eclipse season is get back into the habit of putting more off-the-cuff personal talks and advice talks here on this channel. I'm dreaming bigger than that. I like to balance big moves and little habits so that I'm not just focusing on one versus the other. But I wanted to do that here. On Son of Selene versus maybe saving all of my more off-the-cuff stuff for my Integrative Mysticism YouTube channel. That's where I talk a bit more about the mystical and the magical and the paranormal, and I do a lot of teaching videos. I do recommend checking that out if you guys haven't seen that yet, so you can get to know a bit more about me, because you should know who your reader is and what they're all about and what their skill sets are and how serious this is to them versus maybe not, right? So check that out if you want. It's not hidden, that I've got a special playlist on the main page of this channel anyway, dedicated to showing off the latest uploads over there anyhow. But something to think about. But I want to also do some more off-the-cuff stuff here. And so I figured for this particular video, I would like to talk about why it's important to learn how to think more like an old school astrologer. Why it's important to approach astrology, and tarot for that matter, with an old school philosophy. Not only because, of course, as you guys know, I am old school myself, but I also think that it affords you more opportunities to actually gain from astrology and to gain from tarot versus simply gamble with whether or not something is going to happen or stir or not. And one of the things that kind of troubles me a lot about modern approaches to astrology and tarot is that there really isn't a whole lot of productivity encouraged or involved with the process itself. It's really more about consumption of the art and the information, and processing more about how it's making somebody feel versus actually producing anything that could change, enhance, or assist a life. And I don't think that that is a very good thing at all. We have to remember that when we're talking about astrology and tarot, this was devised by the educated, scholarly mystics, magicians, witches, wise women, and sorcerers for use. For their own use, and to, of course, hopefully, be of use to the people that they served, which means going out and doing things, timing things, taking action, initiating, and also preparing for whenever you need to get prepared to take something on. And that is what I have always modeled my life after, not just my business, or God forbid that yuppie word brand, but my life, my desire to be among those old school wizards and sorcerers, witches, wise women, and mystical practitioners. And why? Because I admire them. Highly educated people, either highly educated through their culture, their family traditions, their work, or highly educated through their own study, their own independent motivations in those regards. And therefore, those who have proven beyond all gatekeeping and a shadow of a doubt that they are masters of their craft. Now, I'm not saying everyone should run out and aspire to be a magician, a sorcerer, a witch, or a wise woman, or unless that is something that you feel naturally called to, then I say, hey, how are you? But I do think it's important to know how somebody like that actually approaches these things versus what is not going to be very good for you when it comes to looking at them in a more modern, dare I say, derelict way. We are at the cusp of a big transition. Each and all of us, collectively and individually. Why? Because that's what eclipses do. And solar eclipses are all about new beginnings, new commitments, new roads, new stories, and new pieces getting put on our board, new directions getting moved down into. And this makes for a very opportune time, now through about the beginning of January, for major life course changes. And to think like an old school practitioner is to go, this, right, is the time that I am actually going to go and allow for a new beginning to begin and initiate it, right? That is when I'm going to take action, get out of my house, get out of my bubble, get out of my routine and my pattern, get out of my comfort zone and do something. Why? Because that is what is available, and that is what is most supported here. Astrology is, as I've said plenty of times, right, in my weeklies, is the weather. And if you enjoy tarot, tarot is the traffic. But if you don't go out into that weather or that traffic, or you don't comport yourself in a way that is actually dignified, decent, or capable in that weather or in that traffic, it's not really going to be something that's good for you. Now, through the end of December, beginning of January, is the opportune time for anybody looking to take on a new commitment, new road, new beginning, or fresh start in life and make it so, especially if there is something in their life they no longer wish to keep that they want to replace. New job to replace the job you don't like. New job to replace the job you don't have. New place to live. Maybe you'd like to expand on your family. Maybe you'd like to have more children. Maybe you'd like a new relationship. You'd like more friends. You'd like to travel. Something to replace the life that you're ready to leave behind. This is the time to get down to business on that, but that does require you to also take steps. How big or how small those steps are will, of course, reflect in what comes back to you, but if you think in a more old school way, you can also understand that, yes, this eclipse will, of course, then make the outcomes a little bit bigger, right? The splash is a little bit bigger post-eclipse. I do not recommend approaching any kind of divinatory or spiritual art with the idea of, this is just about processing how it's making me feel. You're wasting your lives. This is a time where you want to be going out and making something occur, right? Even if you're getting a negative forecast, even if something seems intense and big and scary, my God, us Virgos had a pretty difficult set of cards. In our weeklies, we got the High Priestess reversed, we got the Ace of Wands reversed, we got the Lovers reversed. It was not really a great forecast in terms of the weekly traffic. Now, an old school practitioner, right, those scholarly mystics, those educated magicians, sorcerers, those trained and cultured witches and wise women are going to look at that and go, okay, forewarned is forearmed. I'm going to be ready to take that on. And therefore, even though I got bad news, I'm the type of person that actually is capable of still having a good week. The High Priestess reversed comes to try to grift me, which is basically what that message was on the material side of things for the Virgo people. Well, guess what? Now that I see the bitch coming, I can slam the door in her face. The Lover's card reverse is saying the challenge is knowing when to end bad attachments, associations, and contracts. Okay, I'm going to do that too. Maybe I find an account that's bleeding me dry. Maybe I find out that by association, this person is causing problems for me in this group or in this community or in this job. I know how to cut ties with them. Maybe he's got to go. Whatever the case is, you've got to think about this. Even if you're not a sorcerer, a wizard, a witch, a wise woman, or a mystical practitioner, you've got to think about how they would take on a situation when it presents. Because this is not an art for people who don't know how to get into that mindset and take on the situation. This is a time where you're going to feel and notice that your feelings are not as important as what your doings are. And as we go through this next few months, and even beyond, those of you who take tarot and astrology and act and work and engage like those old school practitioners are going to be in a very good way. Now, for those of you who are interested in, again, learning a little bit more about this eclipse and what happened, I did put up a recent video all about how this eclipse is going to affect this next 3 months. Check out your monthly astrology forecasts as well for October for a bit more personal context. And if you ever want to get a personal reading with me, you can go on ahead to my website. It's integrativemysticism.com.